All right, I'm calling this meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. Joint meeting of DPW Subcommittee and Town Council, September 20th, 2022, 6 p.m. Roll call. Councilor Marquetti is here. Councilor Steves. Present. Councilor Dow is absent. Assistant Member Lazo. Present. And Kevin Splin is present. Consider and approve joint DPW Town Council meeting minutes of August 30th, 2022. Has everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yep.
Any changes?
No. So moved.
Second.
Anything, Counselor? All right, all those in favor? Thank you. All right, agenda item number 4, Citizens Forum. Ms. Doyle?
I have noticed many times, and I'm not sure if this is the right place, but tell me if it's not. I have noticed many times when I'm coming out of the parking lot of Town Hall, how dangerous it is to turn left onto Elm Street because of all the cars parked there. And I don't know if anything can be done about that. You know, I don't know what could be done. Like, I don't know, even taking out a space or two. It's just cars are so wide, it's really hard to see.
Yeah, I
And then
agree.
you have to nudge so far out into the street. And
Do you think maybe this is something for the Traffic Commission to take a look at?
Yeah, I would refer it there.
so, should I send it to?
I would.
should I send it to-
They're having a meeting, let's see. They are having a meeting September 28th,
Oh, okay.
4 p.m. at the Community Room at the Police Department.
So I'll send it to Shane. Okay.
I think I've sent
I think
it.
that's where it belongs, yeah.
I think I've
Okay.
contacted him.
Thanks.
Actually, I think I sent it to Heather back when she was still DPW director about trying to do something about it. I don't know whatever happened to it.
I agree, it's very difficult to get
Well,
out
trying
there.
to
Maybe make it happen on the
reverse
parking
the
spot
direction
there.
coming out so they come
Just
out
keep
of
in
this
mind
side.
that first parking spot right there is handicap.
Yeah. You gotta
In front of the old
you gotta have a
bank.
You mean
It's a
on
handicap, so they'd
on
have to
Elm Street.
make sure they change that in the
Regardless,
regulation.
it's hard to turn.
But what I'm saying is if they do change it, just
Move it back.
just instead of wasting another meeting, they're gonna have to
Yeah.
move that handicap spot.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I'm just putting it out there, like, is there any way to make it safer to turn left,
Okay.
you know? I don't know if reversing the directions would be feasible after all this time. I don't
They talked about
think
that.
so.
Yeah, we turn it around. I don't think
They'll be going the wrong way.
they ever do it.
We also talked about, remember how they used to have a mirror up there?
Yeah, they did.
We talked about that as well, and Shane said that the town can't do it because there's a liability issue, so it would have to be the owners of the
The
building.
owners we put it up there many times when they get busted.
Really?
Yeah, kids smashed
He
it.
won't do it anymore because of the
That was to stop
liability.
running over the people.
That was the people on the walk, but
but
it's the liability, now he won't do it either.
The guy that does that stuff.
All right,
Okay.
anything else? Anybody
No,
else?
I'm good.
Mr. Pulaski?
You reminded me of something. Years ago, when Woodstock Road was re-planned at the bottom, we did have a public hearing in my neighborhood, but due to the need to handle the toxins, which resulted in that hill, that massive berm, in which they spent a lot of money bringing in tons of dirt to dilute the dirty dirt, the plan changed and there was an opportunity to comment on it, and you reminded me by commenting here that it just happened the other day. At the bottom of Woodstock Road, I'm sometimes unable to go right or left because there's so many cars there. Doesn't happen a lot, but the light changes before the people on Woodstock Road get to move on. And I know it's very difficult to get lights changed, but there's a sign at the bottom that says no right on red, and some people aren't courteous enough to to scoot to the right or left, they're to the bottom.
Right.
They'll sit right in the middle.
Yeah.
And if there was I would think they'd be wise enough to not take a right if cars are coming.
I believe when they did that, it was supposed to be a continuous right-hand turn.
It was, yes.
And then they didn't do it because it would have interfered with the business that's there. That's what
Not only
happened.
that, I'm sometimes sitting there all by myself, no cars coming in any
I know.
direction, sitting at a red light.
Sometimes the lights are screwed up down there.
But if that sign can be removed, it would probably help traffic flow.
All right.
That makes sense.
Okay, we do have an agenda item tonight about ongoing road improvements, and probably we should talk about those things then. Anybody else? Anybody have anything? All right.
Mind
Thank
if I
you.
bring up something since that he just made me think of?
Okay, go ahead.
The other day, I was going through the Mechanic and Charlton Street lights, and if we could speed up that light, that would be helpful, because that thing's really slow. At least on the Mechanic Street side, anyway.
All right. You all set?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Agenda item number 5, discuss the town manager's appointment of Vernon Jackson Jr. as interim DPW director. Entertain a motion to recommend to town council.
Second.
And I see the town manager has arrived, so go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. So, as you all know, tomorrow will be Mr. Desjardins' last day. He was our interim DPW director, filling in for Ms. Blakely, who left us at the end of last spring. While I'm looking for candidates, it came to my attention that Mr. Jackson, who was recently retired from Sturbridge, is doing some work. He worked for BSC Consulting, and that he may be available on the outset for 1 to 1.5 days a week, and then he had a project finishing up in potentially the end of October, beginning of November. If we still needed, he would be available for several days a week. I did reach out to him, talked to him, told him what I needed somebody to just help me continue to run operations while we were looking for a candidate, and he said he'd be willing to do that. He offered me a rather reasonable hourly rate, what he's getting from his consulting firm, which is less than some other consultants that I've seen. From all references that I've received to date, I think some people here in town know of him. I've received positive feedback, so I was looking from this committee an endorsement to at least have me get someone to fill that position, at least help the two individuals, Mr. Harding and Mr. Ether, on a regular basis, oversee things and help get things signed off. We're looking to bring in a temporary admin to help our executive assistant, who will be handling a lot of the paperwork that would normally be handled down there. And as you know, I am looking to bring in potentially an engineering firm to have them have someone come in on a weekly basis to look over things so we can ensure our projects move while we're still looking for candidates. So.
All right, thank you. And are you all set?
Yes.
Any questions? Councilor Steves?
Yes. Have you already advertised the job?
Advertise which job?
The DPW director's job?
Oh, yes. We've had an ad out there since Heather left. We have had a handful of candidates, some more qualified than others. I've sent these resumes out to a couple of active DPW directors in Central Mass for feedback, and we have a few candidates coming in the next week or so.
What do you figure the time frame would be to actually hire somebody if they work out?
Most professionals nowadays at that level are probably giving 4 weeks plus or minus, so it could take a couple of weeks to go through the interview process. We have 2 or 3 candidates coming in, so it could take 2 months. From now until 2 months.
Yeah, just figure like Veterans Day or Thanksgiving.
Anybody else? Councilor Lazo?
To the chair, to the town manager, I understand when I set them up with per diem, I don't see a problem. I think Butch Jackson is an outstanding candidate for a temp. My thing is there going to be a time frame on, in other words, are we going to give him a month, or is it going to be, how's it going to be set up? I mean, I don't want to get temporary, which I believe getting a temporary is a good idea. It's what I like to see. But I hate to put it where it becomes continuously no DPW director. I've seen this happen before. Is it a month? Is it by the week? What's your projection for the filling of the actual position?
I would like to fill it as soon as possible. And what I said to him was, we didn't talk about a set time frame, but I said I would want him on an at-will basis so that if I have somebody, we can just terminate. And he came at it with the understanding he wasn't looking to do anything long term with us. Anyways, it was, he has a void in his schedule. He would love to help out. He understands our situation, so it seemed mutually beneficial.
All right, very good. Council Stevens.
Yeah, to follow on that, would he be willing to stay around if we do get a DPW director in the short term? Would he be willing to stay around to provide some assistance, considering we have so many vacancies up there? Interim, it's like the second in command, the engineer.
I'm sure we could discuss that with him. As many of you gentlemen probably know from based on your experience, he is doing site work and construction for this consulting company, but he said typically from about October, November till April it slows down. So he said that's why he has some time here. So even if we did get him, to Councilor Lazo's point, if we were having difficulty finding something, we would probably lose Mr. Jackson come springtime when the work that he does for the consulting firm picks up.
All set? Okay. Anybody else?
Mr.
Go ahead,
Are we
Mr.
hiring
President.
his firm or are we hiring
No,
him?
him.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Looks like a pretty good resume.
Real good.
Works for BSC Group. That's the group that been working with Ms. Dean.
On the rail trail, correct.
All right. Okay. All right, nothing else? All those in favor? Thank you. Motion approved, 4-0. Agenda item number 6, discuss the town manager's appointment of Peter Venture as DPW maintenance man / equipment operator for indefinite term effective immediately, pending successful completion of state ethics. Entertain a motion to recommend to town council for
Make a motion.
confirmation. Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, good evening. I didn't get to mention it before, but Mr. Desjardins could not be here this evening due to a family issue. But he did send me an email earlier this evening, and he let me know that with his notes on all of these appointments. And he did say that Mr. Preventure is an outstanding candidate for this equipment operator position. He has experience in HVAC, automotive repair, management supervision, and would be invaluable at this point in the department. He's interested in moving up, and he could see that happening if positions arise. He said his experiences would be good if down the road we create a facilities management position as well. So that was Mr. Desjardins' comments. And I do defer to his judgment based on his experience, but I did hear the name mentioned as a good candidate beforehand before he came up this evening.
All right, thank you. Questions, Mr. Swain?
Do we know if this candidate, according to his resume, it doesn't state it, but does he hold a CDL Class B license with air brakes?
Don't know that off the top of my head. I could get back to the council before Monday night.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we postpone until we get that answer on this question. The reason being is we've been hiring employees that do not meet our minimum standard requirements according to the job application. And we're training guys. We have a guy now in the highway department who's trained for almost a year that has not obtained his license, and his 1-year grace period is coming up in, I believe, 2 weeks. And we're gonna end up losing him because he doesn't meet it. According to the paperwork on the town website, first minimum certification they need says must have and maintain a valid Class B CDL license with air brakes or better Massachusetts license mandatory. So I'd like an answer before that goes out, so that's my motion.
So a motion to postpone, any second?
I'll second it.
If you
Hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Tom.
No, if you're so inclined to revisit this, I will see if I can get an answer right now for you.
Okay, any discussion on the postponement?
We'll wait for the town manager to get.
Well, it might take a couple of minutes. I'm just sending a
All right.
couple of,
Why don't we not close it down till we get an answer?
or I think technically you could table it and pull it back later
Yeah,
if it's
table
not
it till,
exercised.
if we get an answer.
We'll table it for now, we need a vote on it?
Yep.
We'll table it? We'll just table it for now. Yep.
Doesn't
We'll
have to
bring
be
it back at the end of the meeting. All right, agenda item number 7, discuss bid results from Oxford Treated Salt Cooperative, Inquiry 23, treated salt bid. Entertain a motion to recommend that council
I'll make that
ratify the
motion.
contract with the responsible and responsive bidder offering the lowest price, Reed Group Incorporated, and authorize the town manager to sign related documents. Entertain a motion. It was motion made by Lazo, seconded by Steves. Town manager is busy looking at the previous.
I
Go ahead,
did
Mr.
get a
Thomas.
response, just so when you take it back up, the response was yes, Mr. Preventure. I have it from both Mr. Harding and Mr. Desjardins responded to me saying, yes, he does have a CPO. He didn't
Okay.
ask what class.
All right, so let's finish this one first, and then we'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll
How's
come
that?
back to that
All
one.
right. Any questions on this one? Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything to add to this one?
Mr. Desjardins had indicated that they've had a good response and been pleased with leads in the past with regard to their salt contract, and he said he would recommend going forward with them again.
All right.
This has definitely gone up in the last year.
Yeah. And that's not a bad price, though.
Okay. Any other questions on this one?
No.
All right. All those in favor? Thank you. 4-0. All right. We'll bring agenda item number 6 back up. Did you want to withdraw your postponing it, or just
If he
hold off?
withdraws a second, I'll withdraw.
I'll withdraw my second. If he's qualified and has a license, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? I do have one thing. At the last DPW subcommittee meeting, I asked you if you were going to hire somebody as the town engineering assistant. And you said, and I quote, "You make appointments based on recommendations of the DPW director. Matt does not feel comfortable making appointments on the way out the door because whoever comes in as a new DPW director or town engineering, they will have to be the ones to work with the new hires." So you decided not to bring a name forward for town assistant engineer, but now, today's Matt's last day of work, you are bringing forth a name for this position. Can you just explain to me why the reverse? Why are you reversing what seemed to me like your stated procedure or rule, so to speak? Just trying to keep things consistent, that's all.
So if you looked at the hierarchy, and I think it was mentioned by the way, not to use his words against him, Councilor Steves said, essentially, that's the 1, 2, and 3 in the DPW department. And the town engineering assistant would be working hand in hand with the engineer. You're looking to fill, in this instance, some of our regular staff that is out there. There are foremen and others that could oversee their work. You would be hiring a town engineer assistant with nobody to assist if you don't have those positions filled.
All right,
That was my rationale.
okay. Everybody okay with that then? All right. All those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Agenda item number 8, discussion of trench bylaw or regulation change. Now, I did put together a presentation here, and I know that Mr. Desjardins is not here, but I think we can still discuss it anyway. This is what I put together. I was looking at different communities and what they do and what Southbridge does. one of the things I noticed was that for fees, I don't think Southbridge has a fee in place. I didn't see any. I tried to look at our application, the paperwork that we were provided. I didn't see a fee. Liability, Southbridge is 50,000, 100,000. Oh, on the fees, area communities have a $10 to a $100 fee. Webster, if it's over 14 feet, it's a $200 fee. Liability, area communities have anywhere from 100,000 / 300,000 to 500,000 / 1 million. I don't think it's unreasonable to have 100,000, 300,000, but 50,000, 100,000, I don't, maybe you want to leave it that way. A bond, Southbridge has 7,500. Area communities are very, very comparable to this. Charlton is not less than 10% of the project cost. For penalties, Southbridge has a revocation of license. Most of the area communities have a dollar amount per day, $50 to $200 per day. Charlton has a cost of repair plus 50%. Inspections, I didn't think Southbridge was very specific on their inspections. They do mention you have to follow the rules, but I didn't see anything specifically saying we are going to inspect anything. Most of the communities require an inspection before you start the work, during the work, and after the work is completed. And as far as the application goes, I thought Southbridge's application page was a little light. One page, one applicant name, one sentence disclaimer. While most of the area communities have a multi-page application, applicant name, excavator's name, owner's name, address, a description of the work to be performed, fees, license number, and a full disclaimer. I also made a sample. I just put this together based on all the others of what a trench permit might look like. It's a little bit more comprehensive than the ones that we have right now, which you have a copy of in your file. Name of applicant, address, excavator, property owner, work to be performed, description of work. If there's a permit fee, they put it right on there. Insurance certification number, policy expiration date, dig safe number, hoisting license, and then they have 4, sometimes even longer disclaimers that by signing this form you agree to everything, you agree to have everything done, you agree to inspections, you'd agree to pay the fee, and then at the end, signature. So I just thought I would print this out. Maybe you guys could take this home with you and come back with some ideas. I got an email tonight from Mr. Matt Jordan that said that we probably should wait before doing this until we get the next DPW director, someone that could help us redo this.
That would make some sense. It would have been nice to see what Matt had come up with, some of his own recommendations.
Yeah, that would be nice.
You didn't have to get that, Mr. Manager, did you?
Again?
Did Matt happen to send you his version of recommendations for revising the trench permits? Because I know he was working on it. I don't know if he was planning on sending it to you, but.
Well, while he's looking that up,
He sent me the same email, I believe, as Chairman Marquetti, so he didn't send me anything, any draft or anything.
so if you want to take this with you and just review it, make any recommendations you want. If you want to take something off, you don't think it should be on there, take it off. And we'll just keep working on it until we come up with something. And with the next DPW director, we can discuss it with him, see if he wants to agree to some of our changes, or come up with some of his own. So what do you think of that?
I think this is a good starting point.
Right.
I mean, a lot of things got to be addressed. I mean, Matt told us that NUCO, I mean, none of the guys are licensed. They don't have to do anything that is listed in this 135-page
Yeah,
document.
he said
which
that
I am
he
in
said that
awe
they
over,
don't do anything.
that the town lets them get away with that.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the reason to have some kind of a penalty structure, even though one contractor told me it's not going to make any difference if you penalize them or not. Maybe not, but the town could maybe recoup some fees.
Yeah, that was my thing, I know,
I mean, the local guys, they hold them to the gun,
Right.
but Newco, I mean, they just do what they want.
Right.
They're a big outfit and they don't care.
the other thing is, I understand that Councilor Lazo said it in a previous meeting that they revoked the license, I understand that, and a license to people is big. But I mean, you're not gonna have a problem with your local contractors in this town where you're gonna revoke their license. It's the guys that are coming in on the one-shot deals where, all right, I'm
Like
not
we
worried
just had
about
on Charlton Street.
it. A good example is the Charlton Street project.
Yep.
That basically, once he did the job, he's done, he's out of there, you're gonna revoke his license. At that point, he doesn't care.
Right.
Those are the people that we mainly have the problem with. I don't foresee us ever having a problem with our local contractors.
Okay.
It's just, the biggest thing is the enforcement, and I am in awe that Mass Electric, Gas, Newco, whatever you wanna call it, does not follow any of this. Nobody's licensed, no nothing. I am in awe over that.
I know that some of the other communities I was looking at, like Charlton, Sturbridge, Webster, I even went as far as Northampton, they require a inspection before you even start. You cannot start until they inspect it. And it's written right in there.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then they do a mid-inspection and final.
Then they'll do an inspection once you've dug the trench.
Yep.
They want to see what you've done before you put any backfill back
They want to see
on.
the bottom.
They want to see it, so.
as I recall, Corey mentioned that back in our last meeting, about him having to go through those kinds of things on a regular basis.
Okay, I'm gonna,
My opinion on that fee process, me as a contractor, you can tell me it's $1,000 for the fee, I'm just gonna tack it on to the homeowner, which in my
That's what
case,
you do.
it's not the way to do it.
all right.
I mean, if you wanna do a $10 fee, whatever, but I mean, you go, $100, $200, I'm just adding it on to the homeowner
Yeah,
anyways.
okay.
We don't wanna penalize our town residents that already pay tax.
That's true, but I'm just going by what other area communities.
And I understand that. The big one is the penalties to the contractor doing the job. Where, yeah, you pull their license, you're gonna hurt them, but if it's a one-shot deal, charge them. Hit them in their pocket.
I guess the question is it legal, would it be legal to apply like a two-tier fee where if they're working for a homeowner, they don't have to pay a fee, but if they're doing road work like Newco or that's actually addressing the road work, they get charged? I don't
That's a
know
good
if that's
question.
legal.
Yeah. Cut the fees
Any
from
idea,
home,
Mr. Anderson?
so
Have to
pay enough taxes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Counselor, Mr. Shenyard's been having his hand up for a while.
I think I agree with you guys, delaying it until the director comes on board. But if you recall, going back when you first originated, wanted the assistant to assist the engineer, a big part of his job in the initial stages of that discussion was to go out and inspect the sites that are being constructed there.
Right.
And that's why that you guys disapproved of the $109,000 for West Street, but you did approve some money for West Street at one point in time. But the biggest thing was getting somebody out there to do the inspections. And if you recall, Heather said it was 200 permits that were not inspected, and some of them were coming to the 3-year mark that weren't inspected because she was the only one with Matt that had the capabilities of going out to see that the jobs were filled correctly. She said that, they send Glenn out to go look at it, but he doesn't know what should be done. So that was 200 that she said, and that wasn't counting Newco. Newco was above and beyond. Now, I think it's important that the new DPW director comes on and looks at that and comes up with some type of regulation that's a little bit better than ours, but to be enforceable. From now until we get somebody, your permits are your holds are gonna be like they are. It's terrible what's going on in town. And, they just go down and look at the hole and say, oh, that's okay. That's not okay.
All right. Okay. Counselor Lazo.
Again, this position, the assistant to the engineer, the thing's evolved into something else. When you do a sewer line, the sewer department comes and inspects your sewer line, when you do the tap in and everything is proper, pipe size, valve size, whatever. If you do a water line, the water supply comes and looks at your valve size, water size, and makes sure everything's as per the code. Our regulations are not that bad. Our punishment by revoking a license is the most expensive punishment you can deal to a contractor. If you want to hit me for $100, I'm going to laugh at it. Put it into the price and go on. Take my license, you got my eyes and ears are all over you. So Southbridge doesn't have a bad setup. The problem is when we turn around and we created this position, Matt in the engineering world, they like to draw things, okay? And Matt has a job, a lot of things get dumped in his lap, like the stormwater drain, analyzing the manholes, and there's a lot of other work that had nothing to do with the intent of what that position was originally. Because when it came to DPW, it was about inspection and construction. And I felt bad when Matt says you're concentrating too much on construction. No, that's where all the complaints came from, were from the construction inspections. Now, if there are other things that have to happen in an engineering office that are more clerical, that shouldn't be the guy we're talking about. And that's why we have to be decisive when the job description should have happened at DPW. It should not have happened at general government. I know people are going to disagree with me. That should have been done in the construction field where people understand what the construction is and how it's inspected, what's the oversight, how long does it take. You know, with those values at the table, you construct a different position than when you go to general government and you get into the secretarial and testing and basically you build an empire for one guy so he has to do less. And I know maybe Matt is overwhelmed, as he says he's overwhelmed, but the bottom line came out, this position started as a construction inspection decision. And it evolved into something else, which I'm not saying that discussion shouldn't have taken place, but there were two different discussions and this position evolved into something else, which I'm looking at it and I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, now, if you think you've cured your inspections problems, I don't think you have.
All right, thank you. You all set? Okay, Mr. Town Manager?
So the origins were, as Council Wazzo said, we talked about maybe getting a seasonal oversight person, right? And I believe that the initial job description was created by our last permanent DPW director, Ms. Blakely, and then it rolled in. I think it was already approved by the time Matt had assumed help. Now, there's nothing to say that if we get a new DPW director, you can't, since we haven't filled the position, you couldn't go back and redefine that position or change the title or do something else. I mean, it's just food for thought, because when we had it there, we put it aside and we planned and budgeted for it, but if it's not exactly what it's going to meet everybody's needs, if you have essentially a new DPW administration, you get a new director, a new engineer, and they say, if we have that essentially line item for salary and we can see using it more for X, Y, or Z, maybe that's something we revisit once we fill those people, and they might say, let's make it more construction, or we'll,
But,
Hold on,
I'm not losing sight of what
Let
you're
him
saying. I'm
finish.
just saying it
I'm
might
calling-
be go ahead.
Go ahead, Counselor.
no, and I'm in agreement with the manager. Yes. What I'm trying to say is, and to Matt's credit, Matt's on overload for a reason, because one, the DPW director's gone, he sucked up a lot more, plus he had his own position, plus there's a lot of stuff Matt was doing that normally in a normal situation, staffing probably wouldn't have to do. But every time the state of the feds drop down on us and say, we've got the rainwater drain thing, we have to test all the manholes. Who's gonna go out and test all the manholes? We never had to test the manholes. It's an added duty to DPW. Where's it fall? Here's where I agree. Let's get the DPW director on board, sit down, and we might have to revisit that position because it might be a different animal when it finally shakes out, if you want to get all the problems solved in DPW. I mean, it was created because our roads were not being inspected and we had road problems. That's where it started. It evolved into something else. We can knock the tin on this another day because I said this to the town manager, we're rebuilding a lot of departments. Not a bad thing. You know, I mean, moving forward, let's reconstruct it and do it in a manner where, you know, the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, the accountability's there, the oversight, and the job's getting done in a timely manner.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the discussion is on the trench bylaw, so we'll hold off on this. I mean, this is just a beginning. I want you guys to take a look at it, tell me what you think of it.
Before we do, Corey had his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Corey. All right,
No, I'm sorry.
all right. Are we all set with this one?
Yep.
All right. Agenda item number 9, discussion of ongoing road improvement projects in town.
So move.
Second.
It's just a
That's not it.
discussion. So,
I have a
do
question.
you have any, Mr. Spring?
I have a question, I don't know if anybody here can answer it. The South Street water line project that we did, we hired Ty and Bond as oversight on that, I believe, for partial, I don't think it was full, partial.
I think it was-
So my question is, I don't know if anybody's driven South Street yet. There is no, all those drains are in that we had to wait for all this pipe to come in. There's absolutely no erosion control set up whatsoever. All those drain pipes are filled with sand, stone, you name it, they're in those pipes.
That's okay.
We got heavy rain probably 3 weeks ago, and
Last night.
you know, last night, I mean, where's the oversight? What happens to the, you know, do they clean them, we clean them? Who's responsible for that? You know, in my opinion, with that much open ground, bare ground, I mean, that couple that lives in that brown house crossing Old South Street, that hill just keeps getting pushed right towards their property, because there's no nothing to pin that bank back. And if you go there, the ruts that are there are horrible. But I have pictures that are drains that are filled halfway with sand and stone. The other one is, and
Is that hill directly related to the project?
yes, because they brought the drain line down that hill to, there's a stream
Oh,
right there.
you mean that, okay, I see what you mean, okay.
The other one I wanted to bring up for that same reason, Councilman Kitty brought it up at the last town council meeting, is that Lensdale Gate project. The erosion control is non-existing, it's going right into that water. That erosion, that silt fence has been down for months.
Which one is this?
So if you go down to Lensdale Gate where they're doing those new apartments at
Ayo.
5, whatever that
5
road
K
is.
Street?
5 K Street.
Oh, Casey.
Casey.
So as you're going down, there's the big pile on the right-hand side that they've been picking away at it, but there's been no cover, no silt fence on that. But, town manager, if you look to the left where the water is, they loaned that on a Wednesday or Thursday, and they loaned it right up to the top of the hay wattles, the straw tubes. The silt fence that's behind there has been knocked down for months. We got that heavy rain and everything came across the street, across the sidewalk, and everything went right over that towards the water. I mean, we kind of go after other contractors about erosion control, and, I mean, the one on South Street's a town project, shame on us.
No, I'm just saying,
Hold on.
I brought that up to.
Hold on, one at a time.
Eric Rumsey, and,
I have to.
okay.
so thank you, Kevin.
So, I mean, my thing is, I mean, I can understand maybe the one out to Lensdale Gate, but South Street, that's a town project, shame on us.
All right,
And the only other thing I want to say is that Coombe Street and Moon Street were done. What an amazing paving job.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Unbelievable paving job. I mean,
I haven't seen you, but I've seen.
oh, you gotta go on it, it's amazing.
Coombs is good, yes.
all right,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Lazo?
To use the town manager, Mr. Town Manager, Main Street, where does that sit right now? Are we gonna not have anything done this year, or? Because it's getting cold, it's gonna be
Yep,
cold.
no, after we had an informal discussion, I announced the other day where we were in discussion with Lynch, and we wound up following up, and we had the discussion about the 2-inch overlay, and they said they would contribute the labor all the way to millings and a few other things. And we have some money in our wrap account to pay for some of the materials, which would be less than $5,000. We left it that they were gonna wait till spring to do it. They're gonna work on the rest of the punch list. We're gonna write it up probably this week and formalize it, but that's the tentative agreement right now.
Okay, thank you.
You all set?
Yeah, move that.
And for the record, Council Marquetti had passed along some comments that he received individually. So we did pass those along.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, personally, I would like to see it get done sooner, but if you wanna wait till spring, I'm okay
No.
with that too.
I think it'll wait till spring.
Makes sense.
In my opinion, I'd rather wait till spring when we have a director and the oversight person that can actually watch what
Yep.
goes on, so we don't go through
Yep.
this process.
And I think the
again.
extra $5,000, I don't think that's too bad.
Right.
No.
Scott, yeah.
Scott, did you have your,
Yep,
Well, he was first.
who was first?
George.
George, go ahead.
I looked at the memo that was sent. I was lucky enough to get a copy. I don't understand fully the curb-to-curb paving. Is that only in front of the post office? Do you know?
Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
My recollection is it's gonna be from the Central Elm intersection down to Everett Street, and where they were going from Cumberland Farms down, this is where Mr. Desjardins had to correct me. I guess there's 4 courses. It was the middle course for the most part that had the issue, so they were gonna mill up the 2 meeting in the middle and a little outside, and then lay it back in, so that essentially they wouldn't be going in where the parallel parking is. So, for anybody who watched, that's my recollection of how.
So Central Street to the end of the project is gonna be curb to curb.
Yes.
All right, because that's, when I just came back into town then, and that's where the machine broke down. And all that area, a good portion of that area was all cold road.
Mhm.
And those trucks sat for a long time. And the other concern, I brought it to I realize it's only an eighth of an inch that we're talking about, but they suggested a 1 7/8 milling. And the norm is 2 inches of milling. So I just found, I actually told Councilor Marquetti that, push comes to push, let them go with the lawyers, let the lawyers back the thing out.
No, they've agreed to do 2 inches.
Right, so the changes are positive for the town.
All right.
Are they going to extend the warranty on the work that they're
That's what
doing?
we want written in when we put it all together, because that's what I said to BHP. If we were redoing it, I want an additional 1-year warranty.
Great, great.
Very good, good question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I thought about that, because I don't want any more problems.
Right.
Council, you all set? Council Lazo.
Just a quick minute. I mean, in the last 3 to 5 years, the council has pushed on roads and sidewalks, roads. We've had some bad experiences, we've had some learning experiences. But the thing is, when you actually see what happened on Coombe Street and Moon, drive down there, look at your street. It is the way it's supposed to be done, where you cannot find that seam in the middle, and they married the curb, where it's just so professionally done. Now, you can pass the kudos out and everything, but we're quick to criticize, which that's what we do. When something's wrong, you gotta identify a problem to correct it. But this is one of those times I just wanna say, outstanding job by all parties involved on those 2 streets. That's the way Main Street should have went, that's the way all streets should be done. Thank you.
All right. Council Steves.
Do we have any update on when work is gonna happen on North Street and Mechanic and Ellis?
I did not bring that email with me tonight. He put it in an email. Did you receive an email
I
tonight?
don't recall seeing my notes.
He said that he's going to try and get Mechanic Street done and do the drainage on North Street. That was the last email I got from
That
him.
was from today?
Yep.
So,
Go
no,
ahead.
it was to Councilor Marquetti and me when Mr. Desjardins said we could. So his comment on Moon and Coombs was complete. He also said that National Grid was invoiced directly for the milling of both roads, providing a cost savings to the town on Moon and Coombs.
That's good.
We say Mr. Pioppi is currently planning to mill and overlay Mechanic and do some minor drainage repairs on North Street in the next few weeks. The current plan is to wait and mill and overlay North Street until next year, allowing for the trenching for drainage repairs to settle over the winter. Ellis Road will commence when the DPW is staffed with someone capable of coordinating with Mr. Pioppi on that project. And that Mr. Pioppi, I believe, raised that when he was here at the last
Yep.
meeting. He wanted to make sure there was somebody.
I'll make sure that you get that email. I thought it went out to everybody,
That
but
makes sense.
I'll forward it to everyone. If nobody has anything else, I do have a couple of things. First of all, I did send you an email on Gardner Street. Those potholes are the size of craters now. That's quite deep. I just happened to be on that road. I couldn't believe I had seen anything that bad. So I'd like them to take a look at that. The weeds on Moore Street are so overgrown, you cannot walk down Moore Street to the field there. So I'd like to see if those could get cut. I would like a sidewalk there, and I've been trying to get one for 3 years now. Can't seem to get one, but at least cut the weeds. You can't. I mean, they're starting to encroach on the road. You have to walk on the road. You can't even avoid the cars coming.
Where's this?
Morris Street.
Past the church going down.
Yeah.
Change it from Morris Street to Every Street.
Right.
It's part of the homeowners.
They'll get there.
In some areas.
But this is in front of the park. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Tom Andrew.
So I did pass along the comments that you had about Preston and Gardner, and they said they would take a look at it. I did have another mowing question earlier in the day, and I asked them to take a look. They said they were going to get out there today. I was told that their roadside mower had been down for a while, so it's back up. So
All right.
that may be it. But I will ask that we take a look at Morris Street.
And then I've also had a lot of complaints about the lights on Main Street, the crosswalk lights. Residents are complaining that they're not long enough, and people are they're trying to cross and people are almost running them over. I don't know what the answer is for that. I thought, well, maybe we eliminate right turns on red. I don't know if that would help either, but residents are complaining about the crosswalks. They're not long enough.
Anyone in particular?
Both sides, all four sides, they
And
try
the,
crossing and they're almost getting run over. So,
'cause I know they were experimenting with them recently, so they're not long enough.
It's
No,
not that. I
last-
think the other problem is if you get a green light to go this way, these guys also get the crosswalk to go that way. But if you're turning right, you're looking this way for traffic and you don't see them go. That's happened to me. The crosswalk lights in this town, and ever since they did that Main Street project, you get a green light and they get the crosswalk light at the same time. And if you don't look to your right when turning, you're gonna clip them. And I mean, the reply I got back from the previous director is, you're at fault because you're supposed to look. I do understand that, but you're not anticipating that person to jump off getting the crosswalk on a green light.
okay. Mr. Shenier?
If you go on Main Street, you look at left, the biggest problem is the left-hand turn onto Elm Street.
Yeah.
The light turns green for the
Green.
left-hand turn, or for the Main Street coming down too. So what happens is people try to beat that
the light.
traffic coming
Yep.
down Main Street, and there's somebody in the crosswalk, because that light changes, I believe, that light does change
Yep.
to let people cross, and it's on a green light for the left-hand turn. I believe also the left-hand turn, or when the lights turn, also goes green, those two are green. And if you remember, Heather talking was, that was the way that the state envisioned this to happen, and there was hope for enough time for people to at least unload onto Elm Street. But the problem is when you go left-hand turn from Main to Elm, that light is green and the crosswalk is saying go. So people, that's where the confusion comes in.
All right. Ms. Doyle?
I thought that people in the crosswalk have the right of way. Is it not?
No, they do, you're right, they do.
You just said the director said that they should, it's
No,
their responsibility.
It's the driver's
I
responsibility.
think there's a certain
Yeah,
amount on one
I
Oh,
side.
it is,
so
it is
that's what I
100%.
wanted to
Curve, and you
clarify.
can still go, but there's so many people
Because
up
when
there.
I see the walk sign, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Well,
that's
I
how
have
she did
legal-
explain it. She said it's the driver's
So
responsibility.
maybe no
Okay.
turn on
Okay,
red. I
thank
don't know
you.
if that would solve the whole problem, but it's something we need to look at. All right. Is there anything else, Mr. Kowalski?
A thought crossed my mind quite a few times over the last dozen years. I heard that, you know, our highway department puts a lot of work into fixing these holes, and they don't last as long because they don't have the hot tar that I think I remember having when I was a boy to fill them. So I bet in labor alone, at least a portion of what it would cost to have hot tar, not occasionally available, but like I'm wondering, could a cooperative be created? Like if we had it in this town, would our neighbors make use of it? And I'm also thinking, in other countries and in this country now, shredded polyethylene is being added to the hot tar, making it even harder. And I'm wondering, could there possibly be, maybe even with creative grants, it doesn't have to be specifically for this, if doing so might attract grant money from the state to deploy such a project, and pay for some or all of it. And I did ask some people, and just, I'm not gonna mention any names, in fact, one person has come and gone since. They're like, yeah, it'd be great if we could afford it. But, maybe we can. Maybe, if not for any other reason, I think it's probably one of the top 3 issues in town, maybe one of the top 2 issues in town among taxpayers, that the roads are not as nice as they would like them to be.
Yeah.
And I don't like people blaming the highway department because I see them sometimes at the same place more than once in a year.
Right.
So if we don't give them the right tools, maybe sometimes cutting the corners or saving the money on the short term might save money on the 1-year budget, but not on the 3-year budget.
I have a question.
I just want to bring it up.
Okay. Mr. Long?
I travel Justin Hill Road quite often, and from Sid's Auto Body, coming back to town, that section before you get to the bend, town has been up there patching and patching with coal patch. And I hit a pothole there today, and the front end of the truck bounced. I didn't notice it right away. It just keeps coming up. Is there some way we could do an overlay just in that section?
Which road?
Justin Hill Road, where Sid's Auto Body is, right at the line. From the line coming back to Southbridge, where it starts to bend.
Pumpkin Hill Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pumpkin, yeah, it's a road, but it's not a road.
Yeah, it's up.
It's a stupid road, yeah. From there, if you could have someone look at that, it's really, I mean, the town did go in there and do some patching, but it just came right back out. Yeah, and it's kind of dangerous in there, in that section. Just if we could have someone look at it, I'd appreciate it.
I think some of the issue hasn't talked about with the cold patch versus the hot patches. You can get hot patch from usually sometime in March, early April.
Right.
Usually Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
You can get
yeah,
hot
there's a cutoff date.
But
I think it's the
problem
28th or
The
something.
problem is, you get the hot patch, and you bring it to the multiple places, by the time you finish off or get the patches, the same thing happens as Main Street. You get cold.
So that has to be a
asphalt.
specific thing, right from there to, from the plant or right there.
That's why they use cold patch all over, is because the hot patch, by the time you get it from wherever, they got it in Charlton or wherever, Millbury, get it back here, you're only getting a small dump truck load. It cools off fast, and then you're in the same situation of putting down a really cold patch again. So unless, like the Gresham Hill Road, unless you do it.
So that kind of relates to what Mr.
Right.
Pulaski was saying, so.
If the town manager could look into that, see what can be done there, it'd be really good. Thank you.
All right,
That's it.
if there's nothing else,
Motion adjourned.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? All right, the motion adjourned. It is 6:55. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.